Mary Beth, we do have a quorum. We have one new member and we will need to do an oath at the beginning of the meeting. I know it's not 5:30 yet, but just wanted to let you know.
Okay, it's getting close to 5:30. Oh, it's 5:30 now. It says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. Are we not doing video anymore?
So I found this out the hard way yesterday, so let me see if I can fix it today. Hold on just a second. And tech services is on this time.
Not that I mind not being on video, but you know.
Okay, it's now checked, so try now.
Okay, let's. All righty, there we go. See my smiling face.
Jonathan found the button before I did, so I'm not
The
taking
good
use of it.
captain behind me there.
You've
So,
been
all right,
doing such great work on that, Mary Beth, you and Peter.
thank you. Thank you. We're very proud of her, without a doubt. Anyway, let's get down to business here. I now call the Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals, the February 2nd, 2022 Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. Who wants to do roll call?
I can call the roll. Margaret Clemens,
Here,
Dee Owens,
Here,
Skip Daly, Mary Beth Smarchuk,
Here.
Vicki Sorensen. We have 3 members and a quorum.
Okay, so Dee Owens, is this our new member?
Yes.
Greetings, Dee.
Hi.
Is she replacing somebody? Did I miss something?
Dee was appointed by the Plan Commission as the Plans Commission's representative last night to replace Bernie Garitas.
Oh, okay. Well, gee, Miss Bernie. All righty. Okay, Dee, welcome on board. And so I need to swear her in. Do I read it or does she read it?
She can read it. That's fine.
Okay,
If she can
Dee.
you see that, Dee?
I do.
Okay, and we
And
can
I
see
turned on
you.
my camera briefly, but it will drop me if I leave it on. So let me turn it off. Just say hello. Okay. There we
Okay.
go. Now, I, Dee Owens, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and of the state of Indiana, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform my duties as a Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals member according to the law and to the best of my skill and ability.
All right. Does that satisfy what we need to do there?
Yes, it does. Welcome
All
aboard,
right.
Dee.
Welcome aboard,
Thank
Dee.
you. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Mary.
Okay, and next up, we have the introduction of evidence.
I request that the following items be introduced as evidence for tonight's meeting. Monroe County Comprehensive Plan is adopted and amended. Monroe County Zoning Ordinance is adopted and amended. Monroe County Subdivision Ordinance is adopted and amended. The rules of procedure of the Board of Zoning Appeals and the case is advertised and docketed for hearing on tonight's agenda.
move approval.
Second motion.
Okay, I'll call the roll on the introduction of evidence. Margaret Clemens,
Yes,
Dee Owens,
Yes,
Mary Beth Smarchuk.
Yes.
The
Vicky
evidence is
Sorensen
introduced.
is here, just to FYI.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I will note the arrival of Vicki Sorensen. And Vicki, did you have a chance to hear the motion?
I did,
Okay, and what's your vote on that?
yes.
Okay, the vote is 4-0.
All right. And next up, approval of the agenda.
move approval.
Second.
Okay, the motion is to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting as advertised. Again, a vote in favor, the vote to approve the agenda. Dee Owens,
yes,
Mary Beth Smarchuk,
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen,
Yes,
Margaret Clemens.
Yes,
The agenda is approved as posted and advertised.
And I note the arrival of Skip Daly.
Yeah, we have 5 members and a full board in attendance.
All right. Welcome, Skip. Oh, we have administrative business. We need to assign the chair and the vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Mary Beth Kesmarchik to continue as Chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'll second.
Let me call the roll on the vote for the chairman. The vote is to, motion was to nominate Mary Beth Smartcheck to be the chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Again, a vote in favor is vote to name her for as the 2022 chairman. Skip Daly,
Yes.
Mary Beth Smartcheck.
Sure, I'll serve again.
Okay, Vicky Sorensen,
Yes.
Barbara Clements,
Yes.
Dee Owens.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0 to name Mary Beth Smartcheck as chairman for 2022 of the BZA. Congratulations.
Okay, I nominate Margaret Clemens for vice chair.
Second.
There's motion and second to nominate Brian Clements as vice chair of the BZA for 2022. Again, a vote in favor is vote to name Brian Clements as vice president for the 2022 term of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Mary Beth Smartcheck,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen,
Yes.
Brian Clements,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Skip Daly.
Yes.
5-0 vote. Brian Clements is named vice president for 2022.
Okay, and by the way, Margaret, you will get to take the meeting next month. I will be out of, what day does it fall on? Do you know? March?
Uh,
March 2nd.
Oh, yeah, I will be out of town, out of country, actually. So,
Oh,
yes,
good for you.
yes, nerdy stuff, yes. All right. Next up, we have old business. And that is the case number VAR-21-61A, VAR-21-61B, Dietz front yard setback to chapter 804, and Dietz buildable area, 15% slope variance.
Excuse me, Margaret.
And I just read that and it's withdrawn. So, well, didn't I read it well though? All right. Never mind. Next up, I'll go with this instead. We have case number CDU-21-6, Good Road General Contractor Conditional Use. And that is Ann. Can you tell us more about it, Ann?
Thank you, Mary Beth. Yeah, so this petition is a conditional use for the general contractor rural use. The property is located in Richland Township, Section 20. It is a 5.5 acre parcel located at 335 North Starnes Road. The petitioners are Glenn and Ashley Goodroad. The property is currently zoned agricultural rural reserve. So as we can see, Richland Township, on the top right is a pictometry photo from 2017. The petitioners own 2 parcels side by side, one of which on the south here contains their residence, and on the north contains structures that are being used as a general contractor use. So a little bit of background. The company, it's a lawn care company known as G&G Lawn Care LLC. It has been in operation since 2012 and has been identified as an illegal use and has been under zoning enforcement since 2018. Originally, in 2018, the petitioner was directed to submit a use determination form for planning staff to review. They determined that it was staff. The use described within the form was a nursery greenhouse use, but with research, the company was shown as a general contractor use, and that can be seen in Exhibit 3 and 4. So currently, the general contractor use at that time, the general contractor use was only permitted in a few commercial zones. Now, because we do have the newer use that is a general contractor rural use, we did reach out in October of 2021 to the petitioners to try to pursue this conditional use, which would be allowed in the Ag RR, FR, and CR zones, which would, make them eligible to apply for this use variance, which would get the property and use into compliance with the Monroe County zoning ordinance. So this was a site visit from this year. There was some road construction, so I didn't get too close. As you can see, this is looking south towards the two properties. So on the right, we have the petitioner's letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and on the left, we have an updated site plan. This petition was originally scheduled to be heard at the January Board of Zoning Appeals, but we found that the requirements for the general contractor rural use, which I'll show in just a moment, were not being fully met, although we do think that the petitioners will be able to meet them. We just have not necessarily seen a site plan or a statement that would get us to full compliance with the requirements of the conditional use. And for those that are new to the board, a conditional use is by right if you can meet all of the requirements. So on the left there, this was their updated site plan after the continuance from the January meeting, where we did ask them to address the areas that were lacking. One of the concerns now, they do show fencing, so screening of outdoor storage area. They do mention a new addition to the current existing barn. We have not discussed that with the petitioner. There is no current building application proposed. What we were missing was identification of one of the requirements. So next. So kind of going through, so they go through and meet most of the requirements. So some of them would be, if it was considered for approval, one of the requirements would be to combine both properties, so that the general rural contractor use does require that the property is a mainly residential use, and currently both properties are two separate lots. So that would be a requirement if approval is considered tonight. The requirement that's the kicker today is number H, number 3, which is that storage, the area of the business may not exceed 100 by 100. And we were hoping that the petitioner would be able to address that by showing how that the current storage, the outdoor area could be limited to that. It was not shown on that last site plan. So just a quick illustration of this requirement. We do think that their outdoor area could be contained in a 100 by 100, as we can see. But right now this is a 2020 pictometry photo. We can see that there is storage that is kind of exceeding this area. These are bins that they use for mulch. And I mean, we see vehicle parking that is not necessarily an issue, because this, if approved, it would be a residence and a commercial activity on the same property. So some personal vehicles, some commercial vehicles. It's just that everything is fairly spread out, and we don't see, we have not seen anything that would meet that 100 by 100 requirement. The petitioner did reach out just before this week, I believe it was the end of last week maybe, stating that the owner of the business, Glenn, was out of town. So Ashley Goodroad reached out and did say that. So hopefully they'll maybe have an update for us tonight. So staff recommendation is to deny the conditional use petition. We have requested updates to the site plan to meet the requirements, to show that they can meet the requirements, but that has not been met.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Ann? Does any of the board have any questions for Ann? Sorry.
I do, Mary Beth. And what do they have to do to combine the lots? What process would they have to go through?
So to combine lots would be a quitclaim deed that uses specific language that we have in the Monroe County zoning ordinance under chapter 804 that states those lots are no longer separate. They should be considered one legal lot of record for planning and zoning purposes. So it's a fairly simple quitclaim deed.
Okay, please note, everybody will be given a chance to speak. We do not take testimony through the chat box. And so please just wait until I ask. Thank you. Okay, any more questions from the board for Anne?
Hi, this is Dee. Being my first time on here, I'm trying to figure out, I mean, I've read the material, but it sounds like that they want to enlarge their area, and in so doing, then they fall under newer rules. Is that correct?
This would be to bring their current use that is under enforcement and is considered illegal. So this would be bringing it into compliance if they can meet all of the conditions of the conditional use.
Okay, and what triggered this exactly? I know this business has been in since 2010. They've been operational since 2010. Were they, the rules have changed since then, obviously.
The property was never in compliance with this commercial use on site. So since 2018, it's been identified and under active enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Skip, I believe you had your hand up there first.
My question is, well, I suppose it's more confusions than a direct question. So they've approached you after this happening. They're attempting to get this done. You gave them a timeline, and they've not complied completely between. And then there was a continuance in January, and it's still not all taken care of. Is that right?
Mostly, yes. So active enforcement for four years now.
Sure.
When there's active enforcement, if there is a way to come into compliance, we work on that. If we don't hear from the property owners, eventually the enforcement case will go to the legal department. So we did reach out kind of a final time, saying, hey, we have a new use that could potentially work for you. And they did contact us back, and is now working with us.
And just to bring the board up there real quickly is we did add a general contractor rural use as a conditional use last year. Prior to that time, you either were a home-based business, which was difficult to meet if you were basically a general contractor. So this use was created, but with it was created conditions that were deemed appropriate by the Plan Commission and the commissioners in regard to having a general contractor's use in a rural area. And one of those conditions was to have limited storage area of 100 square feet. And so that's the rub right now, is trying to make sure they meet that condition in order to be eligible for a conditional use.
Okay, my follow-up question is, it seems like the county is willing to give them an opportunity to move forward and to become compliant. And it seems like the applicant is interested in making this happen. Perhaps there's communication problem, or perhaps they're just not moving quickly enough, which is a problem if that's the case. But what I'm trying to understand is why, what would the process do if we deny this? Can they reapply for this, or is it a done deal and it's over and they just have to cease doing business at that property? Is that what it comes down to?
Well, unless they present to the BZA that they're meeting all the conditions, they're not eligible to receive a conditional permit, use permit, and accordingly, the petition would need to be denied.
Okay, and upon denial, can they just reapply?
I think they can reapply after a certain period of time. That's either 6 months or a year, something like that.
All
But
right.
this is an enforcement. This is an enforcement case. This is not a legal use under the ordinance.
Okay. Fair enough.
As a note, and maybe this will help Skip, just a little clarification, the continuance from from the January BZA was we had reached out and said, we think you can meet these requirements, show us how you can meet them. They did send us that site plan that I showed a few slides back, but it was on last, I think, Tuesday, which we published our packet on Wednesday. So there was not really a whole lot of time to communicate with the petitioner that they still were not meeting the storage area.
Are you willing to, other than deny them, to extend the period of time to make sure that they give you a plan that meets the criteria? Because from it looks as if they're interested in making this work. And it would be in everyone's best interest, I'm sure, to make this work now as opposed to tying up the man hours and them reapplying and then not having the business for 6 months.
The board could certainly consider continuing or making a request for more information from the petitioners.
Thank you.
Margaret, you had a question?
Yeah, am I mistaken, or is the storage area increasing in the proposed plan? Is it enlarging, and if so, to what? It's like 1.5 or 150 by 100 now, and is it enlarging?
So, I would love to have the petitioner, when it comes time to talk about that proposed addition, that was very much new information. But in this original, very first photo from 2017, the pictometry photo, we can see that the area has enlarged with time where they have outdoor storage, mainly along the west side of the property. So behind the barn, we've seen this area increase using pictometry photos. And I'm sure the petitioners can maybe discuss that potentially proposed new building area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, D.
Yes, if Ann or Larry could point out to me what is the difference, but I haven't read it lately. What's the difference between general contractor and landscape? How did they get bumped from landscaping to general contractor?
I can actually answer that for you. So
Thanks.
the general contractor definition is purposely rather vague. It is included in your packet. So the general contractor is an individual who contracts to perform building, structure, construction related work, or to provide supplies on a large scale, or an individual who contracts to erect buildings or other structures. Construction work may include, but are not limited to, plumbing, landscaping, electrical, framing, concrete, masonry, roofing, etc.
Yeah, and I looked at that, and so did a staff, who made that determination that they were more than a landscaping business?
That would be Larry Wilson from the original use determination.
Okay.
Dee, I'll also mention when we took the text amendment, this is Jackie, when we took the text amendment forward to make the rural general contractor conditional in the rural zones, we did amend the definition of general contractor and added in the specific examples, including landscaping. So that definition had changed a little bit. And so the original use determination that Larry had made at the time was a prior definition that didn't include that exact example of landscaping.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mary Beth, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Okay, are there any more questions for staff from the board? Seeing none, is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
I did see them on earlier, so it may just take a moment.
Yes.
I am on. I am Ashley Goodroad.
Okay,
I-
Ashley, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
I think my husband's on the call as well. So this started as actually, this has been many years, but this started at, it just kind of came out of the blue. A competitor of my husband's made a complaint to the county about his business being at his home. So that was kind of the first that we learned about not being compliant. And so we went through a lot. We hired an attorney. We worked on this. Whenever COVID came, offices shut down. No work was being done. We had put through to the nursery. So we've done pretty much from our end, everything that's been asked. Jump through this hoop, do this paperwork. I think our person in that office has changed multiple times. I've went in personally and sat down and met with somebody. They pulled up paperwork. Hey, try this. Why don't you try this? So we've been working actively on this. It did go through a slowdown period during COVID. Then this new conditional use variance came along. This seems like something that can really work for us. I've been trying to work with my husband on it, but he's been doing a lot of the legwork, doing the measurements and all of that. Anne did reach out to him. I think it was last week. He was out of town and he asked me to get in contact with her. So I did get in contact with her and said, hey, what do you need? Can you call me, email me? What do you need from us? Because we did not want this to get continued again. I'm here to help, and did not receive a call back. I hear from her that it was after the date that the packet was due, but I think it was the day before that she had contacted him. So we do need time too, to be able to get materials and get it back to her if she wants a change or something. So we are more than willing to work on this. We don't want to have to relocate our business somewhere else or go through the process of getting something changed to commercial and that type of thing. So I do think that this can work and we can limit the size. I'm kind of thinking him asking for the additional, like the add-on to the garage may have been to help with the outdoor storage, and he could probably speak better to that. This is his business, so this is what he does every day.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Ashley? No, is
My husband is on, but he says he can't talk, so he's on audio.
You just unmuted me, so
all right. Okay, can you please state your name, sir?
yes, Glenn Goodroad.
Glenn, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, please continue.
As my wife has stated pretty clearly, all this really just started not even from a standpoint from the county or anybody else, but a competitor that wanted to push a prerogative that didn't involve anything but himself. We have tried and continue to try working with our planning. Really a lack of communication on their part doesn't help whenever there's such a void, and their willingness to come out and speak with anybody or to speak to somebody on the phone, rather than trying to use electronics, especially whenever you're limited on the availability for internet. I mean, our house is so rural that we can't even get anything but a DSL, almost a dial-up tone. So we're trying to do our best. Obviously, I'm just a small business. I can't afford to just go in and go to what they deem the best for every person. The reason that I had associated the red area in the new site plan was because I believe the 100 by 100 was for outdoor storage only. So if we added on to our pole barn, then obviously we'd have more indoor storage and not have to worry about it. That was very unclear. And we tried to get those things communicated to Ann, but nothing was ever produced from that. I'm sorry. You know, it's this is a difficult process, obviously, for every person. All I'm trying to do is just make a living and provide a living for 4 or 5 guys that come and help us. So it's just upsetting that we have to go through all of this for no lack of, there's our neighbors aren't complaining. We're not having any issues other than just this onset from what we've received.
Okay, does anybody, are you done,
sorry.
sir?
Yeah, I guess.
Does anybody have any, or does the board have any questions for Mr. Goodroad?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Skip.
Mr. Goodroad, what would it take to get you in compliance in regards to time? I heard you speak about not having reliable internet. I mean, those are all as valid as that might be. Let's cut through this. How much time would be needed? You understand now, I trust at this point, what is required by the county of you to come up to compliance. What will it take in terms of time to do it and to find time to get to their office, sit down with them in person if you can't do this? You know, we're looking to solve this problem. You know, we're not trying to put you out of business, or at least I'm speaking for myself at least. Well, so my question to you is, what kind of time, 30 days, 60 days, what will it take?
Richard, hold on,
I can-
or Glenn, hold on just a second. I think what, it's just sometimes the way that things are written is a little bit hard to understand. And it's like, what exactly are they asking? And if you can't get an answer back and like communicate well back and forth, it's like some of this looks like gibberish, at least to me. Sometimes, and I'm like, what exactly are they asking? So it would be nice to sometimes to get an explanation to know exactly. And I think that that's kind of slowed down things. But Glenn, how long until do you think it would take to be in compliance with what they're asking here?
I mean, if I could have 60 days, I could be in, I would hope. Well, I mean, I want a guarantee that we're going to be accepted and granted the variance before I spend a ton of money. I mean, just to put up the fencing, my material cost is almost $4,000, and that was estimated over a month ago.
But
So,
did you say
just
that
as
you have a
stands.
full year to get those things done after it's approved, or you know someone that they had additional time? I think they're asking, how much time do you need to get these things done to where they could approve it outside of the things that you have additional time to complete? Is that right?
That is my question.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if we had 60 days, I mean, it's hard to tell with the weather, obviously, but I believe we could do it before then.
But you're saying put up fencing and do all of those things that we actually have additional time to do. He's
Yeah.
saying just the things on here that we need to do to be in compliance to get this approved.
So I believe the only thing that they're worried about is the 100 by 100. Is that correct?
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah,
that
because
correct,
I
Ann?
spoke with, I'm sorry.
I was making sure that with Ann that was correct.
That is correct. That's the only condition that's left. And Larry or Jackie, correct me, there always can be a condition of time put on. It does not have to necessarily be completed at the next board meeting, but there has to be some kind of stipulation of date of when those improvements will be completed.
If I might interject here, it seems to me that there are two issues. One is that up until this time, because of different constraints that that the Good Roads have right now, and as well as, it's a bureaucratic process, that they really need to work with planning in order to have this come before the Plan Commission and get it approved with more certainty. And so I think that what we're hearing is that the Good Roads could use 60 days to get the plan together and come back in and get it approved, and then the 100 days start. Am I missing something here, Anne?
I believe more time would be helpful. I do think, like the petitioner is stating, that they can meet that requirement. Jackie or Larry, do you want to discuss why it was brought today, or?
So, yeah, sure. And one of the things that in the Board of Zoning Appeals Rules of Procedure, there is an allowance for continuance by the petitioner. Last month, we felt it was necessary to continue it by staff. This month, typically, if we send out the packet and the petitioner is not approving of maybe the recommendation by staff, or there's additional questions, they are able to request a continuance prior to the meeting or at the meeting at this point. So that's something that is able to be requested. Because this is an enforcement issue, they are still operating today outside of a large 100 by 100 storage area. That's 10,000 square feet. That area does include all indoor storage of the commercial business as well as outdoor storage. And I apologize if that's unclear, but we're trying to clarify that today. So the entire storage area must be within the 100 by 100 area to qualify for the use. What we're not saying that in order to apply for the conditional use, your site already has to comply with that storage area. What we need is a site plan that shows that you're committing to comply to that area. And then if you don't, we're back at, possible enforcement. So following this conditional use application, we can file for a site plan and go out to the site, and you would apply for what's called a land use certificate. That's when we actually would show that you're complying with all of the requirements that you said that you were able to. So just to clarify, in case that continuance of 60 days is to put in improvements, that wouldn't necessarily be required before the next BZA, but you do have to have a site plan that gives us enough information to show that you're able to meet all of the conditions and comply with the use.
Now, is this is the storage area of 100 by 100 sufficient and adequate? I mean, because they're looking to enlarge, not to.
No, there was no plan to enlarge.
Okay,
Like I stated before, that the red area was only because we thought that it was for outdoor storage, not indoor. That area was already there.
but what if, so Jackie just said one of the goals is to get the storage
Yeah.
area down to 100 by 100. Is that feasible for you?
Yeah, I don't see that as an issue.
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
Okay, are there any more questions for the petitioner or staff?
Mary Beth, I have a question.
Okay,
For the staff. So if they combine their property, does that make a difference on this 100 by 100 that we're talking about, or is that just two separate things?
It would
Need to
not,
combine
be-
them.
it would not be the requirement for the 100 by 100. It is a different requirement that states that the general contractor or rural use would be on the same lot as the residential use.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And why do you feel like we need to combine those two lots? Why is that important for this?
But you can't meet the requirements for the conditional use unless it's a 5-acre lot. And the house is on the same lot as the business.
It's just the house of the business. The business is currently on a 5-acre plot. The house is on a separate.
Right. The
Right.
primary residence has to be on the property where the business is being operated.
This is condition B that's on your screen right now.
And we'd be happy to go over with both the Good Roads following this meeting. If this petition does get continued by the BZA, we can go through each one of these. And if you have questions following that, we'll make sure to answer those quickly. And we can do so next week.
Alrighty then. Any more questions for staff or the Good Roads?
I would like to note that when Jackie says next week, the county government is closed tomorrow. And we might be expecting a closure on Friday as well.
Yeah, I can understand that concept. Those of us who work from home will be working. So, all right. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak against this petition? Seeing none, does anyone on the board have a motion ready?
I would be happy to provide a motion if whoever's running the screen could throw up the data for me to go off of. All right, I would like to make a motion on case CDU-21-6, Good Road General Contractor, conditional use in Richland Township for section 20 at 3350 North Starnes Road, that we continue this for a later meeting with the condition that the petitioner meet with the county over the next 2 weeks and then has a 30-day period afterward to comply with their findings in terms of a solution to the outdoor storage.
So Skip, just for notification reasons, and since this is broadcast on CATS, is April 6th, 2022 adequate time to continue to?
That is perfect for what I'm suggesting.
I would second that.
Okay, Larry, you want to call the roll, please?
I sure will. Motion is to continue CDU-21-6, Good Road General Contractor Conditional Use application to the April meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. A yes vote is a motion to continue the matter and the hearing on the conditional use until the April Board of Zoning Appeals hearing. Mark Clemens,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
Yes.
Skip Daly,
Yes.
Mary Beth Smarczyk,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen.
Yes,
The hearing on CDU-21-6 is continued to the April meeting.
Okay, next up we have. Thank you, Mr. and Mr. Goodrow, by the way. You have a good evening and we will see you in April. Case number VAR-21-71. And that is the Griggs floodplain compensatory storage variance to chapter 808. And that's Tammy.
Yeah, this is a 0.46 acre lot located in Van Buren Township, section 12 at 4102 West Glen Oaks Drive. I did see that one of the owners, Denise, is on the line tonight, and so she'll be able to speak on this. It's zoned RS 3.5. The request is a design standard variance to chapter 808. This is our flood damage protection chapter. And the specific item is 808-5A11, compensatory storage requirement. So basically the purpose of the project that the petitioners are proposing is to add fill to their driveway, which is at 82 by 25 area to raise the elevation, which will get it out of the special flood hazard area. So they'll be adding fill between 6 inches and 3 feet. The petitioner has obtained a DNR certificate of approval. That's essentially like a floodway permit, and also a DNR engineering no rise certificate. And if this variance is approved, then the 2 pending permits that they have going, a grading permit IG-21-21 and floodplain development permit FP-22-1, those can be issued, work can commence. So this is located just off of Curry Pike and West State Road 45 in this neighborhood here. This is the map that we have, and laid upon here are 2 flood maps. We have the FEMA floodplain map, which is the gray hatched area, and that exactly matches the DNR best available flood layer flood zone map. And so we utilize both of those when assessing a property and the activity that's occurring within a regulated floodway. And in this case, a detailed study was performed by FEMA. And so DNR adopted that when they did their best available data layers. And this is more of a kind of honing in on the site here. The street is West Glen Oaks Drive, and you can see that the floodplain is essentially just their driveway. The way that compensatory storage works is that I think I have it on the next slide, but you have to kind of keep an equal amount of the amount that you fill. You have to take out an equal amount within the floodplain in the same property. This is the exact language that is in our ordinance here. And so the excavation shall take place in the floodplain in the same property in which the authorized filler or structure is located. And so this is kind of a little bit difficult, seeing that this is their driveway, that you would have to put a significant divot in that driveway to kind of bring the fill up along there. So we did kind of see that this was a hardship. Let's see, and I'm going to add that this ordinance, we have to comply with state regulations, which come under the federal umbrella of the Federal Emergency Management Association. And so we adopted this ordinance in 2017. DNR had also given us some optional design standards that the county could adopt, and the county adopted all of them. And this is one of those optional items that was adopted in 2017. And so, this is, I think we do utilize this when we work with people within the floodplain. In this case, because of the way the site is laid out, it makes it a little bit tricky. So this is some aerial photos of the site. And I will say that, like, in June 2018, 2021, we had a significant flood event in Monroe County. And I was out on June 25th doing some inspections. I talked with many people down in this area here that had experienced flooding. And you can probably see from the petitioner's letter that they sustained about 22 inches in their home from that flood. So, this whole area here is impacted. And I think that because they've got that DNR engineering no rise certificate, that is important, just to kind of let the rest of this community know that this project is not supposed to significantly raise the elevation level of the floodwaters. So these are a few other site photos. You can see how their driveway kind of dips down, and the way that the street from Curry Pike comes in, water just runs down the street and then runs right into their driveway. And I do believe that the house just to the west of them also has the same kind of similar scenario. And these are just a few other photos. I will point out that when staff did an inspection, we saw that they were putting in a footer, which was not part of the state permit description, and it was going to complicate and require much more engineering to kind of go through the permitting process. So they will not be pursuing a structure here at this time. And again, it was just going to go back to just adding fill. I'm also going to mention that They have been doing some hardscaping and a little bit of grading work here, but that is outside of the floodplain. Did not seem to trigger the need for a grading permit. And I will also say that Kelsey Patonia, our MS4 coordinator, is on the line tonight, and she can speak to other drainage within the area because this is a sensitive area. It's in a critical watershed. And you may want to hear from her as a staff person that is, works with stormwater all the time. So this is the petitioner's site plan depicting the project site, that 25 by 82 square foot area. And the petitioner's letter kind of also describing that they did have that 22 inches. Oh, that was back in February. I'm sorry. In June, they had the 25 inches enter into their house. So to have those back to back kind of almost incidences is frustrating. I can see why they're wanting to kind of make this improvement, and I hope that it will help reduce their chances of, flooding in their home. This is in the packet. It's the certificate of approval from DNR. This is essentially their state permit that allows the work to occur. It was issued right when COVID was happening. And one thing that is noted on the final page is that it's not a waiver for any local ordinances. And like I did say, our local ordinance is more strict than the state ordinance because we adopted all of those optional items. And their contractor or the owner, there was a miscommunication and no local permits were sought at the time. So they have kind of been under a cease and desist order since June with no driveway being kind of torn up in this condition. So they're looking forward to kind of remedying this and getting this zipped up. I will make note, since Denise, you're here, this has an expiration date in March. So you may want to pay attention to that with regards to seeing if the state can renew that. And then the engineering no rise certificate that was issued in December, just this past year. I'm sorry, it was issued October 21st, 2021. And it really kind of just states that that the project was small enough that it would be considered causing no rise in the regulatory flood stage for this area. So staff is recommending approval for VAR-21-71 for the floodplain compensatory storage for Chapter 808. Staff finds that there are practical difficulties associated with the project and that the design of the home, and this driveway redesign, the driveway redesign has support from DNR Engineering to support this project without compensatory storage design, since it is an optional design standard. And the proposed grading project will result in less chance of the residents flooding in future storm events. It's never 100% guaranteed, but this should help on even some of those smaller events, I would think. So does anyone have any questions?
Any questions from the board to Tammy? Dee?
Thank you very much. Considering my ignorance on this, as I looked at the pictures and I didn't see it anywhere, if the driveway is raised up, doesn't that preclude being able to use the garage ever again? I guess it really doesn't matter, but keeping water out of the house is the main purpose. Yeah.
I will let the petitioner speak to that. They right now are just immediately wanting to fix this area. There has been talk about possibly putting a structure on this side and maybe relocating the driveway, which would require a new driveway permit and residential permit, but it would be up and out of the floodplain and not in a mapped floodplain area. So easier to kind of work within that area should they choose to.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions from the board for staff? Seeing none, is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
Yeah, I'm here. And so to explain, yeah, we are not going to be able to use our garage as a garage if we do this.
I'm sorry, can you please state your full name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Denise Griggs.
Denise, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Okay, you can continue.
sorry, got ahead of myself. Yeah, so the plan is to block up where the garage door is currently, and then add some windows so that it matches the other side. But yeah, we'll lose the use of our garage as a garage completely, because we'll be putting in a good 2.5 or 3 feet of soil up where that garage door is.
Does does the board have any questions for Denise? Nope, don't see any. Okay, is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Seeing none, does one of the board members have a motion ready? Margaret?
Yes, in case number VAR 21 71 regarding floodplain compensatory storage in chapter 808, I recommend that I'd like to move that we approve the floodplain variance because there are practical difficulties associated with the project, as we've discussed, both in the design and also given the support of DNR engineering, that this is an important project for us to approve. And this is at 4102 West Glen Oaks Drive, and it's in Van Buren Township. And the property is owned by Denise L. Griggs and Gregory E. Adams. So I'd like to propose that we make a motion that we approve this.
I second.
I will call the roll. The vote is on variance 21-71, Griggs floodplain variance for compensatory storage as required under chapter 808. The motion is to approve the variance based upon the findings of fact. Again, vote in favor is vote to approve the variance. Dee Owens,
Yes.
Skip Daly,
Yes.
Ray Marchek,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
The variance is approved by a 5-0 vote.
All righty, you have a good evening.
Thank you.
Next up, we have case numbers VAR-22-1A and VAR-21-1BB. Is that correct, Ann?
Yes, it is.
All right, and all right, I'll let you go ahead and take that.
Sure. So the first variance is for BB profile. It is from landscaping from chapter 830. The second variance is a surfacing requirement from chapter 806. So the property is platted as lot 5 in the Pinnacle Business Park major subdivision. It is off of the somewhat recently constructed Profile Parkway at 3432. It is currently zoned under chapter 833 as general industrial. So on the top right is the illustration, a pictometry photo, fairly old, of lot 5. It does not necessarily show the completed construction of Profile Parkway Drive, but you can obviously see the outline of Profile Parkway that has been totally completed. On the bottom left, this is kind of just a location map to show you where we are along Curry. We did see kind of this general area of a few months ago for that off-street parking, which is right here. So that's all within the same subdivision. So this is just a snippet of the major subdivision final plat, looking at lot 5. So the petitioner has applied for a commercial site plan, and the proposed use was determined to be warehousing and storage. So these two design standard variances are requested for, well, one, landscaping. So the commercial site would require an approved site plan for occupation of the site and development of the site. So landscaping such as buffer yard, interior, and perimeter landscaping would be probably required under chapter 830. And then the surfacing requirement would be that off-street parking areas would be constructed using a plant mix, asphalt, concrete, porous asphalt, or porous concrete or permeable paver systems. So upon staff site visit, the site is currently being occupied. The commercial site plan has not been approved. The intent of the original use, which you can see under the original use determination, which is Exhibit 5, was that it would be a Duke utility laydown yard for storage of utility poles as they work on a fairly large replacement of utility poles within Monroe County and also City of Bloomington jurisdiction. So the site visit showed that there was more than just storage of utility poles, that there is personal parking, vehicle, truck parking. A construction trailer was also located on the site, along with multiple dumpsters. Under chapter 833, we are not necessarily concerned about the expanded use because it would be covered under the use of warehousing and storage, but it does necessarily, those uses do need to be, they do need to be identified under an approved site plan with proper building permits applied for. Currently on the screen, you can see some of the actual utility poles laid down. Upon update, after releasing the packet, the petitioner went ahead and sent us a photo that they had installed fencing. We have directed the petitioner to apply for an after the fact permit for this fence. To note that the current site plan would require a building permit for the construction trailer placement. These will be pending approval of that site plan. So staff is recommending denial for both variances. Landscaping specifically is that landscaping could include some screening, but it wouldn't have included perimeter landscaping. Screening could have been through landscaping or fencing with an approved layout before installation. And the surfacing requirement would be that the site is also being used for large equipment, employee vehicle parking. Within the petitioner's letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals, they state that the surfacing requirement would not necessarily be required for just the storage of utility poles, but we can clearly see that the site is being used for more than that, which is somewhat negates the petitioner's reasoning at this time. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Ann from the board?
I have a quick question, Ann. This is Skip.
Sure.
What would it take to get this approved? Oh, for your recommendation. What would it take? What would it take for your recommendation to have been an approval at this point?
Yeah. We probably could have gotten behind the surfacing variance request if it was truly only storage of utility poles. But we can clearly see that the site is being used for warehousing and storage, a lot more than that. The landscaping, I'm not sure if I can specifically Larry, Jackie, do you want to expand? I'm not.
Yeah,
sure.
I'll jump in here real quickly. To grant a variance, there has to be practical difficulties. Practical difficulties are not just the expense of complying with the ordinance requirements. In this case, it's clear this is basically a contractor's storage yard. It's not just temporary storage for telephone poles. And as a result, staff felt that they needed to comply with the same requirements that are placed on any other individual who's trying to develop a contractor's storage yard, which includes paving the parking lot, as well as providing landscaping around the storage yards.
I will add to that, one of the things that petitioner will speak about is that this use is being proposed as temporary. We do not, we have very few truly temporary uses that are approved within the zoning ordinance. To develop a commercial site is to develop it with the full compliance of the zoning ordinance.
And just to add on to that, and that's spot on what I was going to say, but in addition, even if the petitioner is verbally stating that they can't meet the requirements because the use is temporary, we don't have a method to typically under the zoning ordinance enforce that they actually stop a business that's been approved under a site plan after so many years. That's not the way that we're set up to enforce the ordinance. So even though that's started their basis for some of these variance requests is that the use is temporary, we don't really have a method as they've proposed to enforce that temporary nature of the site.
And I will further note that the temporary uses we have are very usually short-term uses, not a year, 6 months. They're generally a weekend or 10 days for temporary use. And under those conditions, we don't require permanent improvements, but longer periods of time, we do require compliance with the ordinance.
Any more questions from the board for staff?
I have a question, Mary Beth. On page 33 at the bottom, it says, an approved commercial site plan filing with Monroe County is required before occupying the site. Did they get that permit or did they just set up everything?
They applied, it has not been approved.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions for staff from the board? Seeing none, is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
Yes, this is Warren Cutchall with BB Profile.
Warren, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I guess first of all, my intent is to be in compliance with the zoning ordinance. When this use first came to my attention, Duke was looking in mid-November, and they said they needed a place to lay down power poles. That was my understanding. We did maybe get ahead of ourselves. The site plan was drafted. It was in review, and my understanding was we were still in compliance if they were not, occupying the site with in and out traffic. They had these giant transmission power poles that they said they needed to get put down. Duke spent significant amounts of money on, properly putting down the geofabric, the substantial amount of gravel that was, engineered properly. And then in early January, they had a change of circumstances that increased their use when they brought in more of the bucket trucks, other equipment, and some, passenger vehicles. So I totally acknowledge that we were ahead of ourselves. I did study and worked with Smith Design Group on, what needs to be done to be fully in compliance with the design standards. The fence, was constructed with the screen that was completed recently. And I guess, a couple of the things have not been crystal clear in terms of landscaping, for example. Both sides of it's a 60-acre site. This is a 9-acre lot, and we're using 2 acres. Duke is using 2 acres primarily, for the primary use is absolutely storage of these things. The transmission project they're working on is connecting the substation on South Rogers to the station at 11th Street. They're upgrading that transmission line. So it's, in layman's terms, it is temporary. They will not be there forever. But I still don't have a crystal clear answer speaking to Smith Design and the planners on, for example, the side yard, what intensity is this and what are the neighboring intensities that are vacant? I don't know exactly what, if we're denied, what landscaping needs to go in. And then I did add another set of materials showing the lot lines. We do not want to put landscaping in this site and then tear it out. There's an environmental restrictive covenant. The red arrow at the bottom of what I'm calling the laydown yard, that is an affected area. It's, that would be where we install the landscaping. So that's a, primary and secondary reason I'm asking for the variance. We don't want to have to dig that out and then maybe do it over again if the permanent use of this site is something different than what we're trying to do right now to accommodate this use for Duke. And then I guess on the paving requirements, Larry, is that, is the requirement to pave every square inch of the storage area or just where the passenger vehicles are parking?
Yeah, I can't tell you the specific requirement. Basically, just an approved site plan showing, typically we require paving for everything. In the absence of, it's typically, there may be a variance if it's a case where, for example, for like utility poles where they're going to be dropping it so that the pavement doesn't get cracked.
Okay.
But that certainly doesn't apply to passenger vehicles or utility trucks.
Understood. So I guess, what I'll say, this is absolutely a temporary use. When Duke moves out, I can make a commitment, a recorded commitment that we will, pave and landscape based on a new site plan when we have more clarity on permanent development. This aerial that you're looking at now shows, the yellow stars, those lot lines will probably go away. I'm working with a large industrial user for lots 2, 3, 4, and 5 to build a large structure somewhere in between those two stars. In which case, it doesn't make a lot of sense if we have to put landscaping there now for lot 5 to then tear it out.
What is the time frame for Duke to be there?
The lease ends 1 year from today. And my guess is they will need it until then. And that was what I started with. They were just going to put down power poles for 6 months and really not even be on the site. I think this other project somewhere out by the airport, needed attention quicker, which is why you see so much activity at the site now. They've told me they're going to flip back and have much less activity starting in a month or so. And it'll be a limited amount of traffic coming in and out of there. And I probably should have had someone from Duke here, but I just didn't think of that.
Any further questions for Mr. Cutshaw or staff from the board? None? Okay, is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Seeing none, does one of my fellow board members have a motion ready? So Ann, do you have your hand up, Ann?
I do not. I don't think so.
Okay, all right. Anyone on the board have a motion ready?
I wonder if we could discuss this a little bit. Could we have just a little bit more discussion now that we
Sure.
heard from the petitioner? To me, it seems like we'd be doing a lot more disturbance of kind of fragile area if we stick to the surfacing and the landscaping requirement. Am I wrong to think that? Or, I mean, it's a 1-year project that we know of, but it seems wasteful and also injurious to the surface if we require what is required in the chapter. Am I wrong on that? I'd like to hear from Mr. Wilson and if possible on, it seems to me that this requirement really doesn't fit the temporary need and the future prospects for that use of that piece of land. Could you talk to me about that, Mr. Wilson?
Well, first of all, there's limited evidence as to what the temporary nature of this use is. Right now, it's a storage yard. Two, the paving of the area for parking would not interfere with any of the use underneath the site. We don't have provisions in the ordinance really that deal specifically with this type of a situation. Again, as I said, we have temporary uses that are for a very short period of time. But do not have a use just because somebody wants to use the property in the interim for a lesser use before it's fully developed.
Are there safety issues with regard to having it the way it is with regard to the equipment and everything? Are there safety issues that we're concerned about? Or is it just an appearance?
It's a requirement of the ordinance. It's not us just saying they need to do this. It's what the ordinance requires.
Right.
So presumably when the Plan Commission, the commissioners passed the ordinance, they took in regard, the reasons such as public safety, the environment, drainage, being able to channel drainage into a certain area because you have paving, rather than having to just seep down through gravel. curbing. There's all these things, traffic flow out of a parking lot, safety of pedestrians entering vehicles and getting out of vehicles, clarity of parking angles by having paving and parking stalls painted and directional arrows and so on. There's a variety of things, but it's what the ordinance provides. And we do not have any ability to say, oh, it's short term. You don't have to comply with the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Which is the reason where the need for a variance of some type.
Skip, you have your hand up.
I do. My question is for Mr. Schilling. Mr. Schilling, does the board have the legal authority to provide and to make a motion and approve a, let's say, 15-month temporary variance?
Yeah, I don't believe so. The variants typically run with the land. There is one case where a special exception was granted on a temporary basis for an asphalt plant that was connected with the state project. So you could make an argument that you could, but there's nothing expressly in our ordinance that authorizes the granting of a temporary variance.
And a follow-up to that, if we were to attempt that, would it set a precedent that we don't want to get into?
Well, you would certainly open yourself up to that argument. I mean, each case is decided on its own unique facts, but people would point to that in similar situations as authority for a similar request.
This is Warren. Am I still able to speak?
Sure, go ahead, sir.
If we, this time of year is not the best time of year for paving. If we had time and an ability to get our site plan such that we show paving, the entire driveway, maybe paving, some proportion of the laydown area where vehicles will be, at least passenger vehicles, maybe a limited number of the utility vehicles, and sort out what is acceptable for landscaping given the environmental and other issues I've mentioned. Could we get a variance for 3 months or a temporary approval so that we can proceed and be somewhat in compliance with the county planning department?
Got a question for legal or staff? Larry, can you advise on that?
I don't know. I guess I would rather just continue it for 90 days than I would have a variance that may just expire. I mean, it just puts us, can we just kick it down the road either way?
Yeah, Larry, I think, didn't we do something similar to this with the plumber down there on the south side?
We
of town?
did. Yeah, it's always an awkward situation where people just proceed ahead and do the use and then come in for the variance afterwards.
Right.
So it makes us look like we're being difficult for like making them remove a use that wasn't permitted. But I think I would rather continue with 90 days and then give Mr. Cutzall a chance to put together a site plan. By that time, the paving plants will be open again. landscapers will be putting in plants. COVID will be over.
Jackie? Okay, I'm sorry, yeah. I agree with you, Larry. Jackie, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I just was gonna state that a few things. So the site plan that we've received to date does not have a full submission, including landscaping. And so I think that continuing this may give the petitioner and their engineer a little bit more time to provide us with a better site plan. And we may even find that they need more variances or less variances, because as the petitioner stated, Warren, he's not sure of the landscaping requirements. That's something that his engineer is supposed to be completing for him, and that we can work with him on that. And certainly we can show that, and then we can see what the deviation actually is of what's required versus what he's asking for. Right now, he's asking for no landscaping, no paving. And I think that there may be some situations where he may put in some baseline landscaping if he knows that, let's say, the eastern property line is not going to change, and there will be some landscaping there, and definitely even if a use does change. But we don't have that right now. We just have no landscaping. But I'll also note on the paving question, so paving can reduce dust. It can also make it so that leaks stored from any stored vehicles could be diverted purposefully into a detention or oil separation system. So that's something that, you know, if there are questions on that, we're happy to answer. And then finally, I think one point I wanted to bring up was that the petitioner has offered in this meeting a written commitment to self-limit the timeline of the use. If that's acceptable to BZA members, and that could provide a basis for the variance. And also, once that time period passes, the understanding would be that any new use would have to meet all standards at the time. So landscaping, paving, et cetera, or else come back for a new variance. So that's something that we didn't have prior to this meeting, and maybe a continuance and formulation of some sort of mixture of written commitment, better site plan, more discussions might be helpful.
Okay. Margaret, do you have a motion?
Yes, but I see Vicky Sorensen's hand is raised.
Oh, okay. Hi, Vicky.
You're on mute, Vicky.
Sorry, with regard to the landscaping, which says it can include fencing, wasn't there a fence around there? And is that considered, they're in compliance on that part?
Fencing can reduce the landscaping. That fence had actually gone up between the time this packet went out and today. So that's something that we're just now evaluating. And so I think it'd be better, again, to review all these things in a completed site plan and then get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
So that would actually be my motion with case number VAR 22-1A landscaping to chapter 830 and VAR 21-1BB surfacing to chapter 806. And this pertains to the petitioner BB Profile LLC at 3232 West Profile Parkway in Richland Township. I'd like to make a motion that we continue this till the May 4th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals in order to give the petitioner an opportunity to work with staff or continue to work with staff on developing a better site plan with more explicit conditions that they have represented to us here tonight. And I just think that continuing this to our May meeting is a happy solution. So that's my motion.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to continue variance 22-1A and B to the May 4th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. A motion, favorable vote is to continue that the hearing until the May 4th meeting. Mary Beth Smartcheck.
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen.
Yes.
Mark Clemens.
Yes.
Lee Owens.
Yes.
Skip Daly.
Yes.
The petitions, both variance 22, 1A and 1B are continued to the May 4th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
All right, thank you, everyone.
I have a
Ma-
quick announcement, Mary Beth, before we go under reports.
Okay,
So I just want to take a few minutes to announce that this is Larry Wilson's last BZA meeting. Larry's retiring at the end of February this year. Larry has been working for the county for 11 and a half years, or about 138 BZA meetings. We are extremely grateful for Larry's expertise. He's certainly going to be missed. He's left us in a really good position, and we have great staff still at our office. And we'll be sure to send out an announcement for Larry's retirement, likely a hybrid celebration, but we wanted to give you a heads up so that you can wish Larry a farewell before his February 28th departure. So thank you, Larry.
oh, Larry, you will be missed. Wow, it's the end of an era, without a doubt.
Seems like there were more BZA meetings than that.
Happy retirement, congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
I envy you.
Thank you for all that you do and all that you know.
Most definitely, wow. Happy retirement, Larry.
I also have one quick question. And Larry, congratulations. But my question is a procedural one. I seem to recall reading in the operational guidelines of these Zoom meetings that it's a requirement for anyone speaking, whether it be a board member, a panelist, a staff member, or someone giving testimony, that at the time of them speaking, they need to be, for it to be on the record, they need to have video enabled. And I've noticed that several people this evening and in some past meetings have not. Am I incorrect, or do we need to watch that more?
I believe
Mr.
it's
Schilling?
just board members. I believe it's
So-
just board members.
That was a requirement for when we moved to the hybrid version. Skip, you are correct that the legislation is that you have to be seen and heard, and that does apply to board members. But again, that's if we move to the actual hybrid version, which is after the governor's executive orders have run out. And right now it goes until March 4th, 2022.
So there's no requirement now, or potentially even if a hybrid were to be in place, for those giving testimony to not be seen?
That is the way I understand it under the legislation, but Dave and Larry, correct me if I'm wrong.
Dave's nodding his head. And he's speaking on mute.
That was my understanding too.
Okay, that was as well my understanding. Okay, Dee, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a comment in response to what Skip said. The reason that I stay off camera is because I'm at the very end of the DSL line. And if I go on camera and there's anything else running, I'll drop the entire call. So I cannot be on camera except on other meetings that I've been in. It's like I say hello at the beginning and then go off camera and then maybe say hello at the end and for a minute on camera, but that seems to have satisfied. Plus, we're not in the hybrid situation yet. So FYI.
And for the record, my comments or questions were not directed at anyone in particular. They were just a matter of making sure that we're protecting the integrity of our legal decisions that we're making.
Yeah, you bet.
Drew likes to be on camera.
I'm concerned, for the good people of the county who also face the situation that Dee faces, that when we do go to the hybrid meeting, that if they have so many technical difficulties that it prohibits them from participating, I'd like there to be considered an exception for technical difficulties. You know, there should be allowed an exception due to technical and practical difficulties for that appearance. You know, because I do know throughout the county that there are a lot of people without adequate bandwidth.
Yes, one of our petitioners this evening was having that issue. That's why they were on the phone. So,
So that's all I've got.
yeah, are there any reports?
I have no reports.
Larry, you will be very much missed. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you know,
so like-
I'll probably just tune in to watch these meetings anyway.
Oh, no.
I will try not to call on you, okay?
No,
Larry,
that was
call roll.
that was a joke.
Uh-huh, you'd miss us that much. But yes, I will not be here for the March meeting. So be warned, I will be in the middle of the ocean with a bunch of Star Trek actors.
Have a blast.
We always do. It's always
Yeah.
such a fun cruise. So,
Cool.
what?
That's cool.
Yeah, it's the Star Trek cruise and yeah, we've been going on it for the last several years. So it's a lot of fun.
Will you be
Anyway.
costumed?
I don't, but I have this wonderful little stuffed animal that I take with me and he does costumes. Because
Okay.
costumes for him are much easier to make and pack than they are for me. So there's that. And he likes his picture taken more than I do too. So anyway, you guys have a good evening. Oh, I moved to that we adjourn the meeting. Is that anybody second that motion? Margaret's not.
I second.
All right. Everyone in favor, say aye.
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 All right, Larry, you're going to be missed.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, we
Thank
love
you
you,
for
Larry.
your service and just you will be missed.
Yeah, definitely. We hope you do log in.
Log in to
see.
see the puppy at least. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.